Hey everyone, on this episode of the Ask Mike Reynolds Show, we talk about shutting down athletes in season, we talk about training to enhance velocity in rotational sports, and we talk about how we manage hypermobile athletes. The Ask Mike Reynolds Show. Helping people feel better, move better, and perform better. Welcome back, everyone, to the latest episode of the Ask Mike Reynolds Show. I am here at Champion PT Performance with everybody answering your questions. I have Dave Tilley, physical therapist here, Lenny McCreener, director of PT. I love that. Did I say your name weird again?
McCreener.
You
went Boston.
That's the Boston accent. That is your name. It's McCreener.
McCreener, yeah.
So I can't get it. You just got to wear a name tag from now on. I've known him for 30
billion years.
A lot of years. So awesome. We're joined with one of our strength coaches here at Champion, Rob Sutton. He's going to help us with some of our strength and conditioning questions today. And then our student crew together here, Evan Levin and Sir Nix-a-Lot. So, Sir Nix-a-Lot, let's ask a lot of questions.
Dave from Ohio. How do you decide between shutting down an athlete or managing symptoms throughout the season or event? And when deciding to shut down an athlete, what techniques do you use to improve buy-in by the athlete?
Buy-in by the athlete.
Tie him down.
Yeah.
I mean, you kick them.
Yeah.
Restraints.
All right, so we're in season baseball now. Not to date the episode or anything, but we're in season. Yeah, gymnastics is in season all year round. That doesn't count.
But nationals is
so kid comes and sees you today, Len, and his arm hurts, whatever.
Right.
What's your criteria?
I had a kid yesterday, and he came in and he was sore, and to me, normal soreness I expect, but when you're having pain or they've had it for a while, where are they in the season? How important are they to the team? Is it their senior year? What position are they? Can they play another position? Can they go from second base to first base? But to me, true pain and like a sharp pain, something that jumps out at me that they've never had, that's kind of a red flag to me that I need to either shut them down from throwing if it's baseball, or modify in that they can hit but not throw. And you just got to really sell it. You got to let them know what the implications are down the road if they play through it. Some kids, I'm not gonna lie, we allowed to play through a lot of stuff. You have to. You can't shut everybody down that feels something. So it's the kid that presents with that pretty sharp type pain that is, you can tell, you can read in his mannerisms that it's just not normal for him.
Yeah.
They know pain and soreness. They know the difference.
Yeah, there's red flag spots and yellow flag spots, right? If somebody comes in and points right on their UCL of their elbow, we're probably gonna say, no. Right. But to Lenny's point, I think there's a big difference between a high school sophomore that's in the first week of the season versus a professional athlete that's 1 week away from the World Series and they're trying to make it, right? So I think there's a big difference between those two. So there's a lot of things that go into it. So everything Lenny said is fantastic for the thought process. I think another thing you got to consider is what's in the athlete's best interest. And I know as simple as that sounds, you really have to think that way, because whatever's in the athlete's best interest is going to be what's in the team's best interest. And that was one thing, we really stressed that, back in the days with different teams, that whatever's in the athlete's best interest is in the team's best interest. So I think nowadays in professional athletes, it's the buy-in component, to answer your second half of the question, is a little bit easier because it's very obvious. If you're not 100%, not only are you going to perform well, but you're not going to help your team. And then you're at risk for greater injury and then really missing some time. So I think the buy-in is pretty easy nowadays, but you got to realize there's a lot of pressures on these guys and gals to get back into their sport. I mean, in my setting, we used to always literally in our heads think, if this guy misses a game tonight, that we're paying him $100,000 to play in tonight's game. Do the math, right? Think about that. Playing $100,000 to just get 4 ABs tonight. It's kind of like the thought process right there. So from a business standpoint, somebody wants them out on that field. But from a medical perspective, you have to think what's in their best interest. You got to kind of put all those together. So it's a complicated question, but you got to have red flags. You got to say, here's certain things that you can't play through. Yeah. So in your sport, it's going to be very obvious, but you definitely can't go through those. And then the other ones, you just manage and you do your best job. And I think it comes with experience, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good. All right, good. What's number 2?
Nihar Palan from India. is a physiotherapist and strength conditioning coach for the state cricket team. My question is, how the workout training ratios should be divided between upper body, core, and lower body to achieve higher velocity and at the same time to avoid injuries.
Okay, all right. So how do you build a training program divided by upper, lower, and core to enhance velocity? We'll say, and just kind of keep it easy. So, Rob, can the upper body, lower body, and core all help build velocity?
Set them up.
Yeah, pretty obvious, right?
I think, in short, yes. I think that's what we're looking for there. I mean, I think like when we design our programs based on, let's say, our baseball athletes, or I guess for any athlete, everything is I'd say pretty even overall. We're getting lower body, we're getting upper body, we're getting core, so that's all in there. I think I guess speaking in baseball, I don't know the finer points of cricket, but I've heard similarities. Yeah, exactly.
Rotational throwing sport, we'll say, right?
Right.
Close enough.
Right. So I think in that, like we've all heard before, and we want to stress the point that the lower body is key in all of this, right? So our bigger muscles below the waist are really what are going to translate into the throwing arm, whether it's baseball, whether it's cricket. So we want to make sure that that's all on point and everything. And this could go for any parts of any sport, but if one part is off, say, or if something is weak, say, in the lower body, somewhere else has to pick up the slack, and that somewhere else might not be able to pick up that slack. Right. So, and that's where some injuries start coming in when we're not strong in some areas and overstrong. Is that a word? No, right.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. Similar in the golf swing where you get all your power from the pelvis. I think that you get pelvis, core, you glued that area. I think that's a main focal point, but you treat it a little differently than if you're going to work your upper body, which has to function differently, but you still incorporate that into the program. So I think I kind of agree. You're hitting everything similarly in an equal fashion, right, but it's just knowing in your head what movement is required and what muscles are required to get that movement that you're building into the program. And just for the record, I want to play cricket. I want to go to India and play cricket. That's like a bucket list thing.
I want to watch you play cricket.
I love this sport. I've never done it, but it just looks so much fun.
I would have the caveat that maybe you bias your lower body. Like you're just saying, everybody tends to overlook legs in a throwing sport. Mm-hmm. Maybe you bias at a pinch more, knowing that coming up through the ranks as a youth athlete, they may not have got that enough from their sport coach.
Everybody's doing their shoulder program, their bands.
Exactly. They know, like,
I wish everybody was there. Not. That's the problem.
They know shoulders.
They know the bands.
Right.
Whatever that is.
And I think too, what we're not saying is to not train the upper body. We're not saying that. And I think there's this misconception of, say, getting tight up here, I can't do certain upper body things, which is, it's a myth. I mean, sure, we don't want to be too tight up there, but if you do it the right way, design it the right way, you're staying flexible and strong up here, and you're not, there's a way.
There's a good balance.
Well said. And somebody might have a specific deficiency too that would sway them. But with throwing athletes, with rotational throwing athletes, I always kind of try to break it down real easy. I say the lower body develops the force, the core transfers the force, and then the upper body dissipates the force. If you're not strong in any of those three, you're going to run into trouble. That being said, you can really break down the motion of the body and say that everything produces force, right? So if you break down a rotational sport, it's obviously explosion and rotational components through the hips, the spine, but it's also the upper extremity as well. I mean, those your arms are moving into horizontal adduction and internal rotation. I mean, you're getting those components there. So just reiterating, it's everything. Right. So you got to put it all together.
Yep.
Good. Awesome.
All right.
What else, Nick?
Blair from Washington, D.C. asks, how do you manage hypermobility in youth athletes? What is effective and what is not?
So how do you manage hyper or hypo?
Hyper.
Dave Tilley.
I don't do any of this. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Gymnasts are tight, right? They're not.
Right.
How do you manage hypermobility in athletes?
We had a similar question like a long time ago. But essentially for me it comes down to a bunch of different things. So one is, what is their demands of their sport need, number one, and two is what does their individual anatomy allow them to do. So see a lot of girls who come in and will have retroverted hips, or will have different given, I guess, bony differences, and you have to consider that in their training program. So those two things are important with a good assessment, and then after that it comes down to what are they doing, what does their sport think is the right way to gain their mobility, because I find that many people are in like this stretch to impress method, that they go as far as they need to go and always crank their range of motion to end range just because it looks wow, that's impressive, but then you look at their sport demands and it's a fraction of what they actually are doing. So I pull a lot of people back. I say, like, you have no problem with your mobility. You need to make sure that you maintain it, and then work more on strength, work more on control through your full range, work more on your programming aspects. Don't just only do mobility work. And then you can dive down, what is limited, if it is truly limited, like they lose their motion, maybe it's soft tissue in their stretching capsule. Maybe it's somebody who has that bony alignment and they think it's their soft tissue, so they stretch more. So you got to really just, I guess, slice it up into pieces and then say, what do you need and how can I help you get there safely?
And I think a big part of managing the hypermobile athlete too is education to their part.
Huge.
So we teach them these things. I always break down. I say there's two ways you stabilize: static and dynamic stability. Right? This is what we all know as clinicians, but you got to educate them. Static and dynamic. So static's like your anatomy, right? Mm-hmm. Your joint, your capsule, your ligaments. Dynamic is your muscles. If you're a hypermobile athlete, then you have poor static stability. You have inherently poor static stability. It is what it is. It's no biggie. It is what it is. It probably makes you a good athlete. But you have poor static stability. So you have to have pristine dynamic stability. You have to have even better dynamic stability than normal. So that's kind of, that. To me, I think that's what you have to educate them. You say, don't be hypermobile, don't keep stretching, and you have to be super strong and super stable. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's how we kind of do it. So. Awesome. All right. Good episode. I like it. Evan, nailed it.
Yeah, good
job, man. Contribute, buddy. I love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's like me in the baseball episodes.
Right. Thank you guys so much. Another great episode. Go to MikeReinold.com and click on podcast and ask us some more questions down the road. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks so much.